Artificial intelligence, cloning, digital cloning is in the news today. It's in the news every day. Let's take a step back a moment and look at where we've been when it comes to the history of cloning, digital cloning of human beings, their brains, their ideas, their voice, their images. Where are we today and where are we going in the next decade, the next 5 years, the next 1 year, the next month? Because I believe that there are going to be radical changes, and this is going to be a dominant part of our culture. So let's get ready. First of all, what is digital cloning? It's when you take the ideas of someone, their words, their sounds, their images, you digitize it and you turn it into a clone that can spit it back out in a way that sounds like more or less the real thing. Now, I'm not using the technical jargon for this. I'm trying to explain this in layperson's terms so that we can all be on the same page. Now, traditionally, this was the stuff of science fiction. It's been in movies, it's been in books forever. Black Mirror, one of my favorite TV shows, had an episode about 7, 10 years ago where a woman had lost her fiance and she missed him terribly. So she recreated him. She had a robot created. We're not quite at that stage yet where the robot can really seem real. But she programmed the robot with every single idea this former fiance of hers had written about in text messages, social media, videos, and it created a digital brain that allowed her to talk to it and get responses back. So she felt like she was talking to the real thing. And it creeped a lot of people out. Well, guess what? We are now there. Here's how quickly things are moving. As recently as last year, 2023, the city of New York in the United States, a city that's a huge, huge metropolis with tens and tens of $1 billion budgets every single year. They spent $600,000 digitizing the voice of their mayor so he could communicate in different languages, responding to people's questions on their website. And when I checked as recently as yesterday, it was still sort of in the text version. They may have it on other parts of their websites, but they spent a lot of money on that. But that's much more affordable than a few years before, where presumably you would have had to spend millions and millions of dollars and have the power of supercomputers at your disposal to ingest all of the data, the audio files, the video files, and to be able to process it that way. Now, where are we? Here we are in May of 2024, and there are consumer platforms out there that allow you to do just that. Input all of your ideas. And the first level is it could then answer questions as you or as an individual or as an institution in a text format. Now, big corporations, big airlines, big hotels have been doing this for years. But now it has percolated down to everyday users. Consumers can do this. There are websites such as Be Human, such as Coachfox, a lot of others that have now popularized this ability to use artificial intelligence to create a chatbot. Now, the interesting twist is some of these are now inputting audio and inputting the human voice. This was either impossible a short time ago or so wildly expensive it was beyond the reach of anything other than large governments or the largest corporations. Now, like everything else with computing power and artificial intelligence, it's gotten so much less expensive and so much easier. So today we're at the point where someone who's kind of a technological moron can use this technology. Who do I mean by calling someone a moron? I mean myself. I do not know anything about Python or any type of computer programming language, and yet I figured out how to create a clone of myself with my ideas, my voice, to answer questions more or less as I would. Again, all I did is use a consumer friendly platform. Now, I'm going to show you, some of you have been here before, have seen this. I'm going to show you the one I use. I'm still in the phase where I'm researching and looking at all these. So I'm not endorsing anyone yet. I may soon, but I want to show you what I'm doing. But I want you to really think about, where are we going to be a week from now, a month from now, certainly by the end of the year. I think there's going to be a radical transformation in the landscape of every single interaction, communication by large businesses, but also by small business, and also by individuals who are authors, experts, creators, online coaches. I think everyone is going to radically rethink how they are communicating with customers, clients, prospects, industry, their tribe, their friends, their family. Now, something that has gotten a lot of attention is there is a rash of startups now that will help you to clone a family member, grandma, grandpa, so your own parents, possibly your own child, where you can clone them so once they're gone, you can talk to them and have conversations and listen to their voice, and in all likelihood, see them in a form that looks very much like you remember them. To be totally honest, that's not a format I'm as interested in. I'm really more interested in the positive aspects of business, communication, larger culture. Here's an example. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but my daughter loves Taylor Swift. Imagine if you're a Taylor Swift fan and you had a clone of hers where you could just get up and talk to her and hear anything she's ever said on any talk show publicly. And if you want to know, hey, what's your favorite breakfast cereal? What do you like to listen to when you're not listening to music in your own genre? She could talk to you. What if you could ask her to sing any song you like at any time, but to change the lyrics a little to make you the subject of that song? Now, that has no appeal to me, frankly, but I'm pretty sure it would appeal to a lot of Swifties out there. That's just one application. So let's just take a look so we can see, where are we currently in the state of AI as it is filtered out to consumers? Because I'm really just, I'm a small business, but I'm a consumer. I'm not paying thousands of dollars for this. So let me just show you the current form that is available to people. And this is the format I'm using is less than $500 a month to get going. And again, I should point out, I'm not selling anything today. The program I'm going to use, I am doing on the platform of delphi.ai. You may want to check them out. I'm not an affiliate, although I might want to be at some point. So let's call my clone and see what it says. And if you're watching this for the first time, I want you to be honest with me and tell me, what do you think of the quality of the voice compared to my voice? I'm not saying I have a perfect voice, but what you want in a clone is something that sounds pretty much just like the real thing. So let's give it a call.
Hi, I'm TJ's clone. How may I help you?
Hi, TJ. Thanks for joining us today. Wondered if you could tell me some tips on how to interview a high-profile guest. I'm getting ready to interview Julian Treasure, who's one of the most successful TED Talk speakers of all time. What recommendations do you have for me on questions I could ask that would be out of the ordinary and interesting, and other things I can do to prepare?
Interviewing a high-profile guest like Julian Treasure is a fantastic opportunity to delve into the nuances of communication and sound, which he is renowned for. To make your interview stand out, consider asking questions that connect his expertise in sound with everyday experiences that your audience can relate to. For example, you might ask, Julian, can you share a personal story where a particular sound dramatically altered your perception or decision-making? This type of question personalizes his theories and makes them tangible to the listener. Another angle could be to explore the future implications of his work. You could ask, where do you see the intersection of sound and technology heading in the next decade? And what impacts might this have on our daily lives? This not only highlights his expertise, but also pushes the conversation towards emerging trends and innovations. In terms of preparation, immerse yourself in his TED Talks and writings. Note any recurring themes or stories he shares, and think about how these can be woven into your conversation to create a narrative thread that listeners can follow. Also, consider the flow of questions. Start with broader questions to warm up, and then delve deeper into specific topics as the interview progresses. Lastly, practice your listening skills. High-profile guests often share insights and subtleties, and being able to pick up on these and probe further can lead to a more dynamic and engaging interview.
Okay, so what you were listening to was not me. That was not a recording of my voice. That didn't go into a database and pull an old recording. What it did is it synthesized and rearranged digits and bits of information, having pulled hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of me speaking in videos and audios, and then reassembled it in a coherent way. I have to tell you, I thought that was pretty good. I think the energy level in the voice was a little bit lower than my own normal voice, but if I'm honest, I think it did sound like me. But I want to hear from you. We can have contrarian opinions. Sarah writes in, the clone does not have a human element to it. You're absolutely right, Sarah. And I think the creators of clones, the users of clones would say, that's the point. There's strengths and minuses with everything. With a real human, you get all the authenticity and the emotions and the insights of a real human being, but you also get the weaknesses of a human being. As a human being, I need to sleep. I need to be lazy. I only want to work a certain number of hours in the week. I don't want to work during the weekend. I'm too lazy to learn how to speak 129 languages, or really any language other than my own. The cloning technology, as of right now, today, May 14th, 2024, is at the point where it can convert what I'm saying into almost any language in the world. Is it going to be perfect? No. But it can translate it so you actually hear me speaking in my voice in these other languages. That's what's masterful. My voice doesn't need a day off. Someone can ask my clone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, anywhere in the world, a question, and I can be accessible in a way that I can't as a human being. Sarah, there are a lot of very legitimate ethical questions, legal questions dealing with clones that I do not want to sweep under the rug. However, I shouldn't say however, and I would like to focus most of my time on all the positive aspects, because the mainstream media is doing, I think, a pretty good job of talking about the problems with it. You can have someone empty all the money in your bank account. You can have someone trick you into thinking they're a family member in a crisis and they need you to send money. You could steal a celebrity's likeness, voice, and image and exploit it. So there's all sorts of negative things that can happen from digital clones, as is in the case of any technology. If we had no internet, we wouldn't have alleged Nigerian princes writing to us saying they're going to give us $10 million if you just send $20. But do we really want to get rid of the internet just because there is occasional fraud? I don't think so. Rage King says, hi, TJ. Thanks so much for joining us. I want to give an opportunity to Rage King and to Sarah. If you want to weigh in on this, if you want to come on screen, you can do so. Also, to give a plug, coming up in about 15 minutes, I'll be speaking with Julian Treasure. He is the 6th most viewed TED speaker of all time. He has 150 million views of his TED Talks. So this guy is a true master at speaking, communication, voice, and sound. So you might not want to hear me for the next 15 minutes, but you're going to want to hear Julian Treasure. So please tune in to that. Sarah, I would like to know what your concerns are about it not being human. As you may have noticed in mine, I'll go ahead and enlarge the screen. I wanted to be very clear that I wasn't fooling anyone. So it specifically says TJ Walker AI, and I do want you to hear just the beginning so there's no deception.
Hi, I'm TJ's clone. How may I help you?
So I do say right up front that I'm TJ's clone. If I tried to trick people and make them think, oh, this is really me, I think you could say, well, that's deceptive. That's not a human. And you're trying to trick people into thinking you're a human. That's a very legitimate criticism. I have no doubt. So, Sarah, I want to hear from you, Rage King. I want to hear about you, any particular concerns you have. But I do want to talk about predictions for the future, because right now, this platform is available. And anyone can speak to anyone in the world at any time using this without having to be there. Your clone can speak to people if they come to your website or social media platform or your app, and do it in a way that is not 100%. But I got to tell you, I've had a number of people say, TJ, I heard this the first time and I thought it was you. I thought it was just you pretending to be a computer and it was actually your voice or a recording. It's not. It's all generated through artificial intelligence. Within a month, the video version is coming out. That's what I think is going to blow people's minds away. If you can see someone or see yourself talking, saying things that are based on your own ideas, based on your writings, based on things you've said in the past in audios, podcasts, videos, YouTube, online courses, and you see it coming out of your mouth, but personalized to Jim or Sanjay or Priyanka speaking to you right now on a website or any digital application. And it has the appearance, the semblance of a live one-on-one conversation where you see the person, you see the eyebrows moving, you see the hand gesture. It's not just, it's not going to be one of those things where it looks like a picture. You're going to see what appears to be the real human being talking to you. And I'm certainly hoping it captures all the nuances of how I move my hands, how I move my body, how I move my face. This is coming out within a month. And when it does, I think it's going to be an earthquake in corporate communications, public relations. Really, I can't imagine an industry it doesn't change, it doesn't affect, because every company, every industry has to spend a tremendous amount of time communicating to customers, clients, prospects, members of the flock, members of the tribe, thought leaders. And today, so much of it is one-on-one, linear, time-consuming with all sorts of bottlenecks. Someone has a question for you and they're 12 time zones away. You can spend weeks just trying to figure out, do we do it at 7 a.m. your time, 7 p.m. my time? No, I've got to put my kids to bed. It can be really dangerous. Not dangerous. It can be tiresome, I should say, and tricky to organize that. Well, all of that dissipates once you use a clone, especially a video clone. Now, people have had phone calls forever, for 100 years or so, but something funny happened during the pandemic. People realized just talking on the phone wasn't enough. People need to see a face. And that's why we saw Zoom just zoom away and become so popular, because the communication is so much more powerful when you can see a face. And that's why I think is going to take off, why these video clones are going to take off, and why I'm really excited about it. Again, can there be abuses? Sure. Steak knives are great for cutting steaks most of the time, but occasionally if you stab someone, that's a horrible misuse. So my prediction is by the end of the year, it's going to practically be embarrassing for large companies and mid-sized companies not to have a video clone of their CEO answering every single customer's questions in a video format. And within 2 years, you're going to see every author, expert, consultant, one-person business with a clone. So if you want to get ahead of the game, I'd suggest you learn about it now. Hire your own programmers, find a platform you like. Let's talk to Sarah. Sarah has a concern the clone may become a bit too intelligent and manipulate, control human perception if it so chooses. I'm battling the flu, so unable to come on screen at this time. My apologies. Well, Sarah, we hope you feel better. So the issue of this is a common theme you see in science fiction movies, and it's something that real life experts like Elon Musk worry about, that general artificial intelligence will get to the point where artificial intelligence could be in the form of a clone, becomes so much smarter than humans that they say, oh, well, our directive is to save the planet. The best way to save the planet would be to make humans extinct, and then it kills all the humans. So there are serious people who worry about that. There's also the concern that because clones or because artificial intelligence programs don't have common sense, if you gave it a directive to make as many paper clips as possible, it would basically destroy every single thing on Earth to make paper clips, and that would destroy humanity. So, Sarah, those are not irrelevant concerns. With respect to clones, in what I see in the next 5 years or so, what I see the greatest application is not programming general artificial intelligence that inputs data from every single source. What I'm talking about and what I'm using is clones that have very restricted inputs. My clone, for example, only pulls in information that I have fed it from copyrighted material I own. So it's only putting in information based on my teachings on YouTube, my online courses, my blog posts, my books. So let me give you an example. Let's just test it. I'm pretty sure I can come up with a question that my clone will just sort of happily concede, don't know, or something to that effect.
Hi, I'm TJ's clone. How may I help you?
TJ, who is going to win the 2024 presidential campaign in the United States?
Predicting the outcome of the presidential campaign is beyond my expertise, as my focus is on helping you enhance your communication skills. Speaking of which, let's pivot towards how you can use your communication skills effectively in political discussions or any.
Okay, Sarah, that's exactly what I was hoping for. My clone didn't try to become all-knowing and all-intelligent. It tried to stick to what it knows because it's only been put in information about my own teachings as a communication skills expert. So your concern about general artificial intelligence getting to that point, legitimate concern, but I think you can have clones without that. Sarah, thanks for stopping by. Let's going to do a quick pivot now. I'm extremely excited to bring on right now our special guest, Julian Treasure. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you, TJ.
Great. And we're going to switch channels in just a moment. We're coming to another feed. This is sort of the pre-interview. I like to talk to guests and try to figure out how can we make this as beneficial as possible for the guests, because your time is very valuable. We appreciate it. And as valuable as possible for our audience. Our audience here is very much concerned with communication and really everything about you, and you're well known to our audience. But you've done thousands of interviews. What can we do in our time together that you think will be a little different, frankly, be more interesting for you and helpful to you and all the ventures you're working on?
I think I'd love to suggest that we focus more on listening than on speaking. You know, most people are much more concerned to be heard than they are to listen to other people. My TED Talk on speaking, which is the one that went absolutely ballistic, I think it's the 6th most viewed of all time, that's got 5 times as many views as my TED Talk on listening. And I think that says something about our priorities. So very often I'm asked to talk about speaking, which of course is very, very important, but underpinning it, the crucial communication skill, I think, is listening, which is very little thought about and very little talked about generally.
We'd love to talk about that. That's fascinating. And I'm as guilty as the next person. I actually teach a course on listening, and yet I can interrupt people. I'm quick to say, I want to tell people, oh, you got to buy my course on listening without listening to what they say. So,
Oh yeah, well,
I was thinking of you this morning because it occurred to me that I was guilty of gossip, judging, negativity, complaining, exaggerating, lying, and dogmatism. And it was 7:59 at breakfast with my family, and I'd already committed all of those 7 deadly sins that you so eloquently laid out in your TED Talk. So we can talk about that as well. What
Yeah.
else? When we start the interview proper, we'll be going live on Amazon. So we will give a nice plug to your books because we want to make it easy for your fans to buy your books with one click. And that part of our interview will live presumably forever on the Amazon webpage, which, as an author is a good thing. So we'll talk about that. But then I really want to talk about anything you're doing that relates to communication and sound, because you do some extraordinarily innovative work at the sound agency. And a lot of our listeners are not as familiar with that, other than knowing, why do I feel happy and excited when I'm here? Why do I feel down when I'm in this place? Why is my office place a drag? People have sort of intuitive feelings, but you've really made it your life's work to be purposeful there. So we're going to want to hear about that. Are there other questions that you just wish people would ask you when you're in an interview that it seems like time runs out and it never quite happens?
I think talking about sound is a great place to go, TJ. It's not something, I often talk about sound in a business context because that's what the sound agency did for 20 years. Actually, I've just retired the sound agency. I'm moving on to focus on my own books and speaking and the communication skills that we talked about. But I have huge experience of sound in retail spaces, in all sorts of commercial spaces, offices. So sound in business is a huge topic, but sound personally, that's something that many people don't think about. We spend 95% of our lives indoors. We are missing the sounds of wind, water, and birds a huge amount, even though many people don't know that they're missing those very important sounds. So we can talk about the sound of nature, something that's very important. I've got a new book coming out next year called Sound Effects, which is all about the relationship between us as human beings and sound, how we affect the sound of the planet and how it affects
And
us.
is that available for pre-order yet?
Not yet. We've just we're working on the very final draft right now. Then it's off to the publisher to go into the quite lengthy process of being prepared for publication. It'll be out in spring from Grand Central in the US and Quercus in the UK.
Okay,
And,
great. Well, we're
very-
happy to preview that. And you also have a course, How to Speak So That People Want to Listen. It's a 7-hour online course. We're happy to provide a link to that in the show notes as well as the comments. And I believe my team will put that in for us. Okay, so if you're watching now, we're going to be back on this channel, and we're coming to you today live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, X, and on Amazon Live in just a moment. So we're going to take a quick break, switch channel or switch our links. When we come back, you'll hear my interview with Julian Treasure. So we'll see you in just a minute. Okay. So Julian, all right. Okay. All right. I'll see you in the next link, Ben.